Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? New comic books this week. I'm not going to review them all at once. My polls were pretty slim. I only had Red Coat number 12. And so I was like, well, I don't want to just come here and buy one comic book. So I went over to the shelf and I looked around. And even though my original plan was to get the rest of Moonshine Bigfoot from the library, I was like, well, what the heck? So I grabbed it off the shelf. They had issue 2. Thumbed through it really quick and was like, all right, I'll give this one another shot in print. Pulled it, came home, read it, and it built well on what it did in the first issue. And while it still had some of the problems of not quite taking itself seriously, it was a little bit better about it in this one. So there's a parallel story between the hero, Moonshine Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, and the villain, who's like the leader of Big Level, and it shows them as little kids, like Moonshine being raised in the sticks by a couple of bootleggers, versus the Big Level kid, being groomed by his father to take over the family business and become like the Lex Luthor of this world. There are almost two different visual styles to this book. Like the Big Level boss guy wears kind of this Ant-Man style mask. It's strange. But as I was reading through this one, I was getting more into it. I didn't stop to like take notes and explain my thesis and stuff to my subs. Like I read it and I was like, this is better. Issue 2 was stronger than issue 1. It still had a couple of the eyebrow raising moments, like okay, you're breaking the immersion here. But overall, what it is as an aggregate of its parts is congealing and solidifying. So what's Moonshine doing? We get a glimpse into his operation. He's talking with his girlfriend. He actually has a fight with his girlfriend, the hippie girlfriend. And credit to the artist, they found a way to always draw her to where she looks like a pinup, but she's not doing like pinup model poses randomly, like the way the memes are. Like, oh, let me bend over and pull something out of the oven. It's just like if she's talking on the phone, like she's leaning on the counter. If she's arguing with her boyfriend, like she's posturing and like leaning forward and getting into his face, and like it's all convincing for what it needs to be, for what it's expressing, but it's also overlapping really well with that whole visual language of hey, we need to have a pretty girl here. Holy crap, it is. Oh, that's right, the Thunder had a game tonight and they won, and traffic is freaking clogged. Okay, Graham is not taking the freeway to work. Daggum. I've seen parking lots that move faster than that. Yeah, we are flipping around and taking the long way. Anyway, I digress. What's happening? We see his operation, we see his still, and they explain that he saw some special mushrooms growing around his still, and he decided to try one, and he started tripping pretty hard. And he's like, well, I decided to add it to the moonshine. I'm sure, why wouldn't you? Obviously, this is going to be something important for later. So we'll see how that particular development plays out. But he does have an argument with his girlfriend over the fact that, not the fact that she's a hippie, but she's got a bad feeling about something that happened the previous night, and she wants to read tarot cards, and he's not into the tarot cards thing, and they fight over that. And then she does eventually read the tarot cards, and it's a bad omen, like something bad is going to happen to Moonshine. And over on the villain side of things, he wants to catch Moonshine. He wants to catch a Sasquatch along with all the other dastardly, pseudo Lex Luthor things that he's up to. And the thing that Moonshine and Amethyst were arguing over was the disappearance of the Boss Hogg character, the sheriff guy. Turns out he was captured by Big Level, and they're turning him into a cyborg specifically to hunt Moonshine. So it's all goofy if I just describe it without the images, but it's in keeping with the way that the story is told visually. Like it's kind of meant to be goofy. And I would say that was my quibble with the first issue, is like I wanted to take itself just a little bit more seriously. There were times in issue 2 where I feel like it did. And it's, like I said, it's congealing into something. I'm enjoying it for what it's trying to be. I think if I were to really enumerate my complaints with issue 2, it would be that, okay, now it's taking itself a little bit more seriously, but it's also being a little bit more brazen with the references that it's trying to make. Obviously, this is a Bigfoot story in a Dukes of Hazzard world. He doesn't drive a General Lee. He drives, I forget what the nickname of his car is. It's not a Charger. It's a Mustang Mach 1. And, there's not a reality TV show because it's set in the 80s, but there are guys that are trying to catch footage of a Bigfoot. There's a competing Moonshine bootlegger. There's, he's effectively like he's like the Boss Hogg and the Sheriff Roscoe character rolled into one. He's trying to catch him, and it all happens in Buzzard County, not Hazard County. So like it's obvious that it's trying to be that. But the new element here in issue 2 was the mad scientist who's turning the sheriff into a cyborg. He is 100,000% Hulk Hogan with a monocle. Like, even if you didn't get to the parts where you read this guy's dialogue, you look at the visual language. He's in a lab coat. He's got the handlebar mustache and the bandana. They just gave him a monocle. But there's even like a "hell yeah, brother" that he says in the comics. Like, okay, I don't know what I would do differently about it, but it's like that scene in Avengers Endgame where all of a sudden all the female superheroes lined up for a quick girl power moment. It's like, okay, I was into it. This broke the immersion. Immersion is an essential quality to really selling an otherwise tricky concept. But I really love the artwork in this book. The colors are just so alive and vibrant, and every aspect of the visual language has been nailed. I even feel like the inking, the line weight that I talked about in issue 1 is a little bit softer, and that works. That's good. So I don't regret picking up issue 2 physically, and I went ahead and had my guy put it on my pull file instead of just grabbing it off the shelf. Homie gives me a discount if it's on the list, so cool, save 50 cents. But it's fine. I like issue 2 more, and I feel a little bit more chill about collecting all of these in print, which is kind of the gimmick. When I was in middle school, I think that's when Animorphs came out, right? And I got them from the school book fair, festival, whatever you want to call it. And eventually, like, I could ride my bike down to Walmart, which is a few miles away, and they would have them, but they didn't always have them on time. And as I got into high school, before I got a car, I would hop on my bike and I would ride, it was like 7 miles to ride to the mall, because there was a bookstore in the mall, and the bookstore at the mall also had a cute girl working behind the counter. Even though I was 14 and I was kind of tall, I wasn't as tall as my brothers were at 14, but I was pretty tall. She was 18 and I was taller than her, but she was not having it. But this was a load-bearing pillar in the Graham lore. I was there every month to buy the book specifically from that girl. If she was ever not at the counter, it was not as enjoyable of a book. It was just part of the formula. We have to return. But I'm enjoying that same kind of feeling going to the bookstore every week. I don't need to hit on any girls behind the counter because I've got Mrs. Trucker Wife locked down completely, and just life's good on that front. The thing about going and picking up a new book is that exciting feeling. And instead of every month, like, you get to do it every week. Now, granted, you have the monthly books, but I've got 6 or 7 books on pull, and it's a good feeling. I guess I just like liking things. So this is a less tepid endorsement of Moonshine Bigfoot if you wanted to check it out. The thing that I'm noticing, and this is where I'll close, is the comics that have the most, like, just brazen combination of, like, very Graham things, they're all coming out from Image Comics. Now, in the last several years, as I've been following comic YouTubers, the guys that have been diehard fans of this medium and this industry for 30 years and who know way more of the ins and outs than I do, like, the gist that I've gotten from them is that I guess Marvel at some point lost all of its creators, and they went and either spun off and formed Image, or they got hired by Image, and then, like, later came back or something. Like this. Somehow that was a big deal in the 90s or 2000s. I don't know when. I haven't nailed it all down. There's a documentary on YouTube called The Image Revolution. I should probably watch that at some point. But I've just noticed that whether it's from Image or Skybound, which is an imprint of Image, or Ghost Machine, which I think does its printing or distribution through Image, like it's affiliated with them somehow, they're all coming out from Image. And it seems like the creators there are all pulling from things that are specifically of my interest. I just love that. I've got an interest in cryptids as a hobby. Love the Dukes of Hazzard. And when I do my Ghost Machine breakdown video next, when I talk about Red Coat issue 12 or 13 or whatever I just read, um, there's something I want to highlight in that to explain, like, once again, like this just hits all the right keys for me. I love what they're doing. At the same time, if it's a little bit goofy and I have trouble getting into certain aspects of it, well, I guess I understand why people are lukewarm on my own writing. It's just what I've got to sell. But it's been really enjoyable to find something that I completely vibe with. I like what they're doing that I have read. Obviously, I'm not pulling every single Image title, but anyway, yeah, loving Moonshine Bigfoot more this time than I did last time. And I'll let you know how it goes when issue 3 drops next month. Drive safe. See you out there.